out across Arkansas into Missouri and as far north as Illinois, and then Iowa and Wisconsin. Kind of my first live here. Got everything hooked up finally. But what we're going to do here is going to go through and show you what we expect to happen as this line of storms moves through. So overall, this line is going to track to the east, and as it does so, we're going to go from what we call the supercell type storms to more of the line echo wave pattern, we call it. I'm going to turn my mic up just a little bit, make sure it's got a good connection here. Actually, I think I may have turned it down just a second here. Yeah, I'm going to put my glasses on first. So what you're seeing there, area in white, is probably the highest area of concentration of severe thunderstorms. So overall, I do expect more widespread wind, especially in Middle Tennessee, and I'm going to talk about that and the reason why here in just a second. But as we continue to go through this, what we're going to see here is overall high wind. And we're talking severe wind gusts, kind of like last Friday, where we're dealing with some 70 to 80 mile per hour gusts potentially. So fairly significant storm here coming through. It's been causing some issues out there across parts of California lately, and I do expect more of the same as it moves into the northeast. So here's the outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. I've kind of got it circled so we can go through the model data and kind of see what we're looking at as far as the maximum threat. And they've got two circled areas, and it's really no surprise. I think the highest threat for the initial supercell is going to be from Little Rock to Memphis up towards Jonesboro. And then another area closer to the area low pressure, the surface low, and that's more likely to get early round of potential supercells, and then we're going to see this kind of blow up some large hail, and then a squall line perhaps head towards Chicago and up to Springfield. So this is kind of how we start the day tomorrow. This is 8:30 in the morning. Not a lot going on. We're going to talk instability, Cape, shear, all that stuff coming up. But notice up the Cedar Rapids area, have some thunderstorms there. The atmosphere is not quite unstable there at that time, 59 degrees. So it's going to be a real sharp cutoff between areas that see severe weather on the north side of the storm system. And for you in Alabama, we're going to be talking all exclusively about the Tennessee Valley coming up here in just a minute. Just wanted to start with the overall view here. As we get to 5 o'clock, that's when it starts to get pretty nasty up there in western Illinois, near St. Louis, east of Cedar Rapids, east of Des Moines, and then in the Memphis area. I think this area is probably going to hit the hardest as we go through the day. Possible supercells and then a line of storms. I'm going to explain why. Notice how that kind of moves to the east towards Nashville around midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning. And here's the look at the Cape. And I'm going to get in much closer to the Tennessee Valley here in just a second. So we've got quite a bit of Cape even at 9:30 tomorrow morning. It's going to be very, very muggy out there in Missouri, Arkansas, down in Louisiana, eastern Oklahoma. But what you don't see is a lot of instability farther east, which makes the concern of significant high wind the most likely thing down the road. But this is going to increase the Cape. This is what makes the atmosphere buoyant and supports severe thunderstorm activity. That's what's going to increase ahead as these winds start to pick up out of the southeast. So tomorrow afternoon, the highest instability, look at Kansas City, that's kind of behind that area. Again, this is using what we call the graph model. This is one of our in-house models from our weather vendor. But you notice how all that instability is still west of Little Rock. And this model is a little later than some of the other models by about 3 hours or so. So that's the other thing we have to watch now is the trend as we go forward. Notice we continue to see an increase in the instability the farther east this goes, but we really lose it as we go past, say, sunset. Now this is the Storm Energy Helicity Index, and this combines the amount of shear with the instability. You kind of see how this builds up there north of Shreveport early tomorrow morning. So this is going to support that supercell environment initially in Arkansas, and then it quickly becomes a squall line as those winds really start to increase. And the winds, we're going to talk about those next. Notice towards Cape Girardeau up to St. Louis, this increases around 4 o'clock. So I think as we get later in the day, the threat of severe weather really starts to be more concentrated in the southern part of the outlook area. St. Louis, you can see there, the EHI is going up to about 3 or 4. So that's real concerning there. And I think a lot of this wind and shear is going to support a significant squall line with embedded tornadoes as it moves to the east. Now this was a real big factor last Friday in the severe weather that was moving in. What we saw, this is the low-level jet stream. This is roughly 3,500 to 5,000 feet above the ground. And it contributes in a way that it allows some of the heavy rain gets brought down by some of these winds, and it also reinforces the wind shear out there that's going on, especially speed shear. Now notice how this starts to increase as you go past. Look at that right there. That's the surface low is really starting to intensify here by 7 o'clock in the evening, also known as the nocturnal low-level jet. Sometimes at night it picks up. So we've got this area that we'll really have to watch. It's going to be from Memphis into western Tennessee. So this potentially could be significant high wind with embedded line echo wave pattern with what they call mesovortices in it. And even on up to the north, in and around Chicago into Indianapolis, you see quite a bit of wind going on there with that. So overall, the wind field is going to spread out over time as this lifts off to the northeast. And we see occasionally these little jet streaks in the 800 millibar jet approaching 100 miles per hour, and that's what's really going to contribute to some surface wind damage. So here's the low-level jet setup here in North Alabama into southern Middle Tennessee. Again, these winds you see here are 4,000 to 5,000 feet above the ground. This is 7 o'clock in the morning. Surface winds will actually pick up to about 30 miles an hour too. So notice as we get past 6 o'clock in the evening, not a whole lot changes, but by 9 o'clock, I'm going to kind of pan up here to the north. Look at some of these winds. This is significant here. This area in blue, this would be near Paducah, and that's probably 85, 90 mile an hour winds coming out of the southwest at 4,000 feet. Usually we're talking severe weather, and we've got 60 mile per hour low-level jets. So it's fairly significant. You see it kind of peaks here again just before 11 o'clock, northwest of Corinth, Mississippi, and still concerned in the Nashville area. And then look how this just blows up here over southern Middle Tennessee just after midnight. So this is why our highest really concern right now, I mean, our concern is for severe weather in North Alabama, but I think a big impact potentially up here with widespread damaging winds from Lawrenceburg up to Shelbyville and near Pulaski and Giles County. And then the last time I looked at this model, it did have some of this moving in, but much later in the day into North Alabama. Or earlier in the day, I should say, later in the morning. But this latest guidance here doesn't show a whole lot of that. So that's actually fairly good news, but I still think we're dealing with real high impact wind events somewhere across the Tennessee Valley, most likely up into Middle Tennessee. And here's the storm system back to the west. It's over Las Vegas. This is the main energy. And right in this area here, those are those winds that are really starting to increase. And as you get over here, I'm going to go ahead and delete that out. As you get here, you can actually see this taking place in the mountains where you've got this washboard look here near El Paso. That's just a really strong wind rippling across the area. And overall, just a developing storm system. As we go into tonight, we're going to start to see these high clouds moving into the Tennessee Valley. Right in here. So overall, the temperatures will begin to warm up overnight tonight. Here's a closer look here in the Tennessee Valley from Little Rock, Memphis. You're not in the Tennessee Valley, but Florence up to Nashville, Huntsville. This will be tomorrow morning. A few showers out there, a few breaks. I think we hit the low to mid 70s during the afternoon. And then just notice these storms here firing up here around 8:30. Starting to see, you know, the problem is the model guidance is really not very consistent at all. One thing is a little bit more consistent lately has been the timing, but this doesn't have this moving into northwest Alabama until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So we'll have to watch that overall. And then it quickly moves out of here by about 7:30. I'll back that up. So again, we'll go through that one more time. So far, again, it looks like the highest impact will be Middle Tennessee and far northwest Alabama. We're just going to have to see how this comes together. So the setup is in some respects quite a bit different than what we had last Friday, but nonetheless, we'll have to keep watching it. So as far as what's going on right now, out west, just some showers starting to develop out there underneath those big clouds I showed you. And notice the look here of these already. South of Oklahoma City, north of Ardmore, Oklahoma. Northeast of Wichita Falls. It's already got kind of that washboard look that I was talking about, and that's that really strong wind kind of rippling through there, and overall tracking northeast. As far as the actual outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, here's a look at it right here. You can see those two circled areas there, and I'm going to just briefly dive into the model data here. This is our convective available potential energy coming in. This is what we call the sounding here, and it's a tornado sounding, and this is going to be just south of Memphis tomorrow evening. So let me take this forward a little bit in time. I'm going to take this to let's see here, let's take it to midnight. This thing's a little finicky. So as we go to midnight, moving into North Alabama, this is the I believe this is going to be the HRR, the HRRR. So as we look at this, it's not as unstable. So the HRRR tries to take it in a little faster than what we were looking at earlier. That was the graph model. So as we kind of go back here towards midnight, it's got the severe threat, and it's got the tornado threat more likely around, this is going to be probably 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. So again, this sounding here, the green is the dew point, the red's the temperature, and we're looking at storm relative helicity of about 403. Cape's not all that high, but again, I think for parts of North Alabama, this is going to end up being a high shear, low Cape environment. And we just have to watch it. So I'm going to sign out here again. Thanks for watching. Again, my room's kind of a mess here, but I am off today. I will be back in tomorrow.